Welcome to another edition of Mindfulness for Athlete podcast, a podcast brought to you by MW Sports Psychology Consulting Group. The mission of Mindfulness for Athlete podcast is to focus on providing mental and psychological services to athletes that will increase and improve their overall performances, skills, abilities, and also assist them to work through their emotional distress and maladaptive behavior patterns by altering or correcting errors in their respective thought, perception, and belief. Hello, my name is Mike Waller. I'm a certified sports psychologist, and today we will discuss with our listening audience self-confidence development. According to Psychology Today, confidence is defined as the belief in oneself, the conviction that one has in their ability to meet life challenges and to succeed, and willingness to act accordingly. Being confident requires having a realistic sense of one's capabilities and feeling secure in knowledge. And that speaks volume when it comes to athletes. Playing in different sport, the sport of your choice requires a certain level of confidence. And while you participate in just going into that sport, if you do not have a certain level of confidence, especially when you go from starting out, for an example, if you're playing football or basketball, more so in the football, the Pee Wee League, then you go into middle school, and then in high school they have the junior varsity, and then leading from the junior varsity up until the high school varsity, and then that's when scouts and all start looking at you, as far as drafted into college of your choice, or they have the different divisions, Division I, Division II, etc. But if you are very good, the chances are you're getting drafted into Division I school. So having that kind of confidence, you have to project it, and in order to gain credibility and feel strong about yourself, people look at you. That's how they are able to establish whether, if you have self-assurance, how you're able to deal and navigate through life relative to playing that particular sport, because you're going to be introduced and exposed to a number of challenges and opportunities. And if you are not mentally grounded and sounded for that, then as a result, your confidence level could go from one area to another, especially, like I said, as an athlete. So we're going to talk and share with you some of the traits or characteristic in building confidence, especially as an athlete. First is, how do you build confidence? Confidence is not innate. It is a fixed characteristic, meaning that it has the ability to be acquired over time. Again, in referencing your sports, if you do not put in the time and the work and the effort and energy and think just because of your natural ability to play a sport, you would not succeed. That's why, again, I have heard over the years, practice make perfect. And I'm reminded of a high school coach when I was in school that practice doesn't make perfect practice, because you can go out and practice any kind of way, and if you don't put in the work and effort, then you could just be an average athlete. But again, like I said, I'm a believer that it has to be perfect, or where you put in the work, the effort, and energies. Secondly, how can you improve in your confidence and your ability, especially playing your sport? Being confident means that you can handle emotional outcomes, whatever you may face. Beginning to acknowledge those emotions, especially during difficult situations, as opposed to avoiding them. Speaking up for yourself. Limiting self-criticism, especially playing sport, because one of the things that I see often now is a lot of athletes during halftime, instead of when they go into the locker room, they're quickly getting on their phone to find out who is, sending in comments and all. And I know if I was a coach, I would say put those phones up, because again, you don't need to know who criticizing or who's saying this and who's saying that. So again, and proving your confidence, meaning that you have to learn how to accept criticism and not get so caught up into what somebody's saying about you. Thirdly, how do you build confidence relative to specific domains? Confidence is not at all self-encompassing. You can have high confidence in certain area and low confidence in others. Whatever domain or area that you choose to have and to elevate into the high level versus the low level all depends on where you're coming from. Over the years, as I have participated in the sport of tennis, I would watch certain athletes, certain players. Back in the day, my favorite player, of course, was Arthur Ashe. And while watching my favorite player, Arthur Ashe, especially going through what he was dealing with, during the era where he played, the adversity, being the only black male pretty much in the top 10 in the world. And so I would feed off his energy, because, again, I was fortunate to play in high school, college, and semi-pro, and being one of the very few African-American players out there. So I had to keep a lot of stuff bottled in, but it didn't affect my confidence. I just chose to have what you call efficacy, because I wanted to produce certain results as a result of playing tennis and knowing that the spotlight was on me. So my confidence level, watching him and other top players, really helped me to focus. So I stayed away as much as possible from not having less confidence to having more confidence. Fourthly, how can you develop mental strength? Mental strength can help you overcome obstacles to develop confidence. You do that by setting goals, shifting from negative thinking to realistic thinking, challenging yourself on a daily basis. Because when you're an athlete, if you are not confident in yourself that you can go out and perform, whether it be football, basketball, tennis, soccer, whatever, basketball, whatever the sport may be, you put in the physical work. But where I see a lot of athletes, they're not taking the time to put in the mental work, finding ways to relax the mind, reduce the racing thoughts, staying clear of the criticism that could cause one to become anxious, moments of sadness where they can be depressed, because it is most difficult to be able to go out and participate in a player sport when you are under stress, when you're on a certain level of anxiety, you're depressed, something could have happened in the family, this and that. So again, mental strength is so important, So one of the things that I find is that a lot of athletes have what you call convictions. Their mind is made up about certain things, and they just feel like they don't need the help, and so those things could serve as a deterrent from them moving on to be the best in their respective field because of their conviction. So they have to be mindful of that. And the last thing I want to discuss when it comes to the traits and characteristics of developing self-confidence is what we call overconfidence as opposed to underconfidence. When we talk about overconfidence, we're talking about looking at taking a realistic appraisal of your ability to establish a healthy balance between too little or too less. Sometimes when you're overconfident, it could be perceived as being too cocky, and then people look at you and say, oh, he's cocky or she's cocky, and that serves as like a negative, So you have to be mindful that if you have too much, you could come across, like I said, being arrogant, in some cases narcissistic, and people don't, want to be around you, because one of the things I find, especially in playing a team sport, there's an E as opposed to an I. And when you're playing that sport, playing with others, I see in a lot of, like, for example, basketball, they focus on 2 or 3 players, but the last time I checked, there were 5 players on the team, and those 2 or 3 top players might not be having their best performance on that day. So that's why they have to look to that 4th and 5th player they substitute in and out, because it's kind of hard to play 48 minutes in a game, So again, I remind athletes there's an E, and so it's okay about being confident, but not conceited, arrogant, or cocky to the point where, you might come across as being, narcissistic. When it comes to underconfident, where there's a feeling of uncertainty, or you have low trust in your ability, and so when you find yourself doing that, you're going to have to find ways, tools, an example, or even talking to someone like myself, a certified sports psychologist, on what I can do to change that, to move in a more positive direction, because it is difficult to be able to participate in a sport where your confidence level is not there. So again, taking an appraisal of finding a healthy balance of having not too much confidence or too less. I brought to you today, again, how to develop your self-confidence. Mindfulness for Athlete podcast, again, designed to focus on providing mental and psychological services to athletes that will increase and improve their overall performances, skills, and ability, and assist them to work through whatever episode, whether it be emotional distress, etc. My name is Mike Waller, the owner of MW Sports Psychology Consulting Group. And if you like this video, you can always log on to our YouTube channel, Mike Waller Sports. So again, look forward to talking to you again on our next episode of Mindfulness for Athlete podcast.